This is the most pitiful figure skater I've ever seen. She obviously got the first place in judges. Just took a look at her shabby clothes and concluded that she did not deserve to represent the country. If I can't get a costume for me, then I won't have to make one. Till then, just stay out of my face. Maybe you're just not as good as you think. Maybe you should pick another sport. So in order to enter the national team, she prepared to take a risk. After the competition, she let go of her figure, asking the judges how to win their respect. But the judges directly told her, figure skating does not entirely depend on skating skills because you represent the country. When you compete in the Olympics, so you need a player with a perfect family. Why can't it just be about the skating? And Tonya's uninspired question did not get an answer. She had no choice but to sacrifice her happiness for a better future, only because her parents left her when she was young. She could not meet the requirements of the competition. Then, she could only marry a strange man as a stepping stone in exchange for the chance of hope. In order to make this marriage look less disgusting, she asked the man to come to the restaurant to cultivate feelings. But every time they date, the mother will accompany them in person, and the mother will always supervise them. Even if she made a difficult move, she could not win her mother's praise. And what came was her mother's personal insult. There's nothing special there. Are you even trying? Because there's other places I'd rather fucking be. She inevitably felt a little disappointed. Even after each training, her mother would always use all kinds of excuses to punish her. Even if it was painful, she could only bite her teeth and persist. Even when she was writing homework at home, move forward. However, her husband's long-awaited excitement made her extremely nervous. But all of this was seen by her mother. So in order to avoid her daughter's insult, every time her daughter dates, she will ask the two of them to be embarrassed. Until the daughter's date is over, she will give up. Although her mother is like a headless fly. However, her husband is like the spring breeze in March. Every period of time will be enough for her to settle down. Soon, Tonya will have her first official match, as other players fell in love with each other. So she entered the skating rink and became more and more popular. She is also about to play the legendary music on the stage. But she did not follow the traditional classical music. Instead, she broke the traditional rock song that pursued her own style. She danced along with the drums. It was as if everything was under her control. She wandered freely. The competition costumes of other players were sold out. But Tonya could only sew it by herself. She thought that she could show off her talent on the rink by showing off her real treasure. But in the eyes of the judges, it was just cheap garbage. Later, in the new round of competition, she lost to the champion again because of the costume problem. Soon, she stood up to the judges with a sweet voice. She clearly used high-tech skills to crush all the players. Why was she eliminated every time because of the lowest score? The random judges just used a few simple words to turn all her efforts into cannon fodder. Stay out of my face. Maybe you're just not as good as you think. Maybe you should pick another sport. After the game, the coach tried to change Tonya's unchanging attitude. After all, she wanted to keep her feet on the ground in the future. However, the coach's persuasion hit her against her will. Although the anger was released, this way of cheating undoubtedly hurt in the best state. Tonya and her husband soon set out on a new marriage. She knew that she couldn't move forward on her own, and she needed help from outsiders. Just when she was full of joy and had infinite aspiration for the future, her mother poured a basin of cold water for her. You fuck dumb. You don't marry dumb. And she had long been reluctant to her mother's harsh words. Then she just had a moment of melancholy and refused to leave. After the marriage, Tonya was like a reincarnation. So she won countless championships in a split second. Soon she was ready to enter the National Elite Tournament. When she was carrying the joy that was hard to express through the dark and narrow passage, she was scolded and questioned by the audience endlessly. This moment, Tonya was also irritated by the rude words of the audience. The coach encouraged her that she was the most potential player, and you only need to use your strength to break all negative life. Soon the coach's words restored her mind. However, what surprised everyone was that in order to make her daughter go further and further on the so-called successful path, her mother didn't hesitate to hire the audience who insulted her daughter. Her mother thought that only anger could inspire her potential. She was as bright as a star on the stage. As the music sounded, she followed the rhythm. At this moment, she had to prove herself with her strength. With a gorgeous hook shot, the hearts of the audience were also ignited in an instant. And what was more exciting was that Tonya challenged the never-successful 3.5-week rotation. She only saw that she had improved her speed to the extreme, and she kept sending ice-cold arrows at the ice. She was bound to have a battle of fire and ice, and she will also make a perfect arc in the history of skating. She not only proved herself with her strength, but also became the first U.S. 3.5-week rotation skater. At this moment, she was as bright as a star. All the efforts in the past were also turned into a successful momentum at this moment. But it didn't last long. After winning the championship, Tonya began to be proud of herself. She was not only addicted to eating and drinking, but also indulged in dieting every day to increase her weight. She even swore to her brother-in-law that even if she didn't train, she could win the world championship. However, she failed several times in the competition. She saw that the Winter Olympics was coming, so she transferred her new training plan to her brother-in-law. But what awaited her was her brother-in-law's more frequent domestic violence. Her brother-in-law vented all his anger at her at work. As the rumors of fire and ice often caused disputes, the gap between the two of them also became more and more intense. From the very beginning of the boxing kick, it developed into a gun attack and even provoked the police many times. But every time her brother-in-law was able to avoid a situation with words. Although life is always full of crisis, journey to the Winter Olympics. Due to the misunderstanding of her, she was still standing on the throne of the champion. She not only fell to the ground in front of the audience all over the world, but also lost the glory she once had. She sat in the room and remembered the once handsome and cool figure, but she was no longer the ambitious skating genius. At this moment, Tonya really hoped that someone would pull her up from in the mountains. She had a firm will in the gym. She was determined to die in the skating rink. But that did not light up her lost path. And when she stood on the ring with all her might, she was still treated unfairly by the judges. So she put down her attitude and asked the judges for the reason. But the judges told her directly, skating does not entirely depend on skating skills because you represent the country when you compete in the Olympics. Why can't it just be about... So she asked her friend to write a threatening letter to her opponent, Nancy. This way, Tonya could easily win. However, her friend misunderstood Jeff's intention. Then she took the initiative to hire a boxer. While Nancy was resting in the middle of the game, Shuriguin broke his leg, and Jeff saw Nancy suffering in the TV. This sudden news made Jeff extremely scared. He soon found a reason to ask his friend, but his friend bragged about the shocking news. It seemed that he had no idea that the danger was approaching. Investigation show all kinds of tricks. So he found a friend to investigate. After a round of interrogation, his friend released Jeff. Due to the lack of evidence, the police could not arrest Jeff. Tonya only realized the seriousness of the matter. Then he tried to figure out the origin of Jeff's case. Skating is my whole fucking life. What did you do? What did you actually fucking do? This punch made him sure that Jeff was the mastermind. Then he came to the police station to expose Jeff's crimes. In the end, under Tonya's exposure, Jeff was sentenced to prison. In a fit of anger, he blamed Tonya for all the crimes. Tonya soon became Jeff's mastermind. Then he was pushed to the edge of a cliff. Although he wanted to explain and try to clear the suspicion, all the explanations in front of the evidence were in vain. When false lies are engraved in people's hearts, people will stand at the top of morality to judge. The truth often becomes unimportant. As the door of the house was surrounded by reporters, it was impossible for him to walk, and he could only hide in the room alone and digest the in him not to be influenced by public opinion, and said that she would always stand by his side. This sudden comfort made him extremely moved. At this moment, he can finally return to his mother's embrace. However, the next second, things turn around. In the moment, he realized that there was something wrong. The whole world is paying attention to the game between him and Nanchi, and the two of them are about to have a world competition. Regrets, he tried to do every move. But soon after the competition, he stopped the game.